Of the BRICS bloc of emerging economies are meeting in Rio de Janeiro. Top of the agenda are Donald Trump's trade tariffs and the risks to the world economy. The BRICS nations include just over half the world's population and 40% of global economic output.
An alliance that started out with only 5 nations is now growing into a powerhouse that is capable of transforming the way that the global economy transfers money, oil, and influence. This is a fascinating development that is taking place in the world of global power politics, and it is happening in a way that is both silent and unmistakable. The creation of a new economic superpower is taking place under the banner of BRICS, which is not simply an expansion, but rather a purposeful rebalancing of global power. This is taking place under the banner of BRICS. In its early days, the word BRICS was a catchy abbreviation that stood for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These 5 emerging economies were working together with the goal of increasing their influence in the areas of trade and finance. However, the rules have been modified for the year 2025. What started out as a small coalition has now grown into a massive alliance that includes 11 full members, 13 partners, and 32 countries that are anxious to incorporate themselves into the inner circle. To say that the transformation has been significant would be an understatement. On January 6, 2025, Indonesia became an official member of the organization, bringing with it a massive consumer market and a key foothold in Southeast Asia. As of August 2023, Saudi Arabia was extended an invitation to become a member of BRICS, and its membership was due to go into effect on January 1st. In the year 2024, Saudi Arabia had not yet completed the process of completing its membership. The invitation is still being considered by the kingdom, which is also attempting to strike a balance between its strategic affiliation with the United States and the BRICS bloc. Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates became members of the bloc at the beginning of the year 2024. Each of these countries brought strategic importance to the group, ranging from access to vital shipping routes to unexplored natural riches. The expanded BRICS bloc currently accounts for more than 45% of global GDP and more than 50% of the world's population, as indicated by recent data from the 17th BRICS Summit. This indicates that the bloc has a strong position in the global economy. If the 11 members who are now on the waiting list convey a story of strategic growth, then the list of applicants offers an even more significant story about the worldwide aspirations of the organization. From among the 32 countries that have expressed interest, a total of 23 applications have already been submitted formally. Uzbekistan, Bahrain, Malaysia, Turkey, Vietnam, Belarus, Sri Lanka, Mexico, Kuwait, Thailand, and Uzbekistan are among the most active applicants for oil-wealthy countries. The lineup reads like a roll call of strategically vital actors. As for Bahrain and Kuwait, joining BRICS means securing new markets for their energy exports while also benefiting from the bloc's push to reduce reliance on the US dollar in global trade. Mexico, on the other hand, brings something different to the table, which is a potential gateway to Latin American markets that would greatly expand the geographic influence of BRICS. It is easy to see why Belarus is appealing to the alliance, since it provides a route into Eastern Europe, which opens up a strategic territory that was previously out of reach for the alliance. BRICS provides access to the New Development Bank, which is an alternative source of financing that has already funded $32 billion across 96 major projects since 2016. Many of these loans are issued in local currencies, which allows developing economies to avoid the dollar and provides them with a way to finance infrastructure and industry without exposing themselves to the risk of currency volatility. During the Rio Summit in July 2025, which took place in Rio de Janeiro, the most significant event that marked the beginning of this new era of BRICS occurred. Expansion was the most talked about topic, but the rules of the game were also a major focus. In the course of its presidency, Brazil advocated for a vision that centered on the establishment of more profound connections within the global south. This vision aimed to shift the tone of the bloc away from overtly antagonistic rhetoric toward the West and toward cooperative growth.
They're not just observing global shifts, they're preparing to lead them. Quietly, strategically, and with growing precision. The BRICS alliance is positioning itself for a transformation that could redefine the global balance of power. In boardrooms, across diplomatic channels, and behind closed geopolitical negotiations, this once symbolic group of emerging economies is laying the foundation for its boldest evolution yet. with 34 countries expressing interest and 23 of them formally applying to.
The meeting, however, was not devoid of any drama. For the first time since 2013, Xi Jinping did not attend the summit, claiming issues with his schedule as the reason. Vladimir Putin, who is currently facing an active warrant from the International Criminal Court, addressed the conference through a video link rather than coming in person. It was important to consider the optics. The negotiations that were taking place behind the scenes continued despite the absence of two of the most influential figures in the bloc present on stage. A significant strain continued to exist, at the same time as they are keen to bring as many nations as possible into the BRICS realm. China and Russia are in favor of explosive expansion. Both Brazil and India, on the other hand, favor a more cautious approach, which they desire, to guarantee that the new members are in agreement with the long-term strategic objectives of the group. This disparity in terms of pace and criterion has the potential to influence the outcome of the subsequent round of admissions. In 2025, what many analysts have described as a trade war between the United States and BRICS intensified with tensions linked to the bloc's continued purchases of discounted Russian crude oil. Despite the fact that BRICS has been expanding its influence, it has also been navigating a tense global trade climate. This is especially true with the United States. Government officials in the United States have stated that President Donald Trump has implemented a plan that involves imposing fresh tariffs on individual members of the BRICS nations. He has framed this strategy as a response to what he claims are trade practices that undermine Western sanctions. On the day of liberation, when China was confronted with high import taxes, the first steps were taken. It was reported that Beijing responded with its own retaliatory measures, which were reported to have reached as high as 145% before eventually reducing them to around 30% in a show of unity. Chinese state media reported that Beijing opened its markets wider to fellow BRICS members, creating alternative trade channels that bypassed the market in the United States. India, which had been hailed by Trump as a close partner in the past, was the next country to be affected. New Delhi was subject to an initial tax of 25%, which later increased to 50%. Following closely behind, Brazil was also subjected to tariffs of 50%, which prompted President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, according to official statements, to urge for a coordinated response from the BRICS nations rather than holding direct discussions. South Africa was also subjected to 30% of the duties. Here, the dispute extended into political territory, with Trump alleging that the country's policies were discriminatory against the white minority. South African officials rejected this accusation at the time, and they also noted that the United States granted entry to certain South African citizens under special circumstances, which added to the diplomatic friction. Russia did not receive any new tariffs, primarily due to the fact that it was already subject to existing trade restrictions. However, Moscow has positioned itself at the forefront of efforts to de-dollarize BRICS, a policy that its leader has stated was designed to reduce reliance on the United States dollar and shield member economies from financial pressure. These are the New Development Bank. Since its inception in 2016, the National Development Bank, NDB, has granted loans totaling $32 billion to 96 different infrastructure and development projects. Not just the scale, but also the manner, is what sets it apart from other things. The United States dollar is not used to issue many loans. Rather, local currencies are used.